Hello! So today we are going to talk about podcasts and shows and maybe some movies. I'm always talking about the books that I'm reading, and so it just, my cat is burrowing. It just seemed like I should talk about these too. Also, I have been trying to do some more video essays, and those take a long time to research, and so sometimes I need easier videos. I am going to start with podcasts, but I will have timestamps, obviously, so if you want to skip, you can. So the first podcast is Behind the Bastards, and this was initially recommended by Khadija Mbo, and I love this podcast. I do have to listen to it sometimes in smaller doses. Sometimes I'll listen to a couple episodes and then I'll be like, okay, I hate humanity a little bit too much right now, so I'm gonna need to listen to something more positive. But it is pretty much exactly like it is titled, the history behind villains, basically, in our society. Some of them are extremely well-known people, some of them are people you've never heard of. He's done a few companies, a few, regimes. The host is hilarious. The producer is hilarious. This kind of fills the same role for me as the Swindled podcast, which is another one that I highly recommend. I have kind of caught up on that one. My thing with podcasts is that I don't listen to them as they come out. Some podcasts I do listen to them as they come out, but in general, I prefer to let a lot of episodes pile up and then I listen to them all at once. So Behind the Bastards and Swindled are very similar podcasts, very different hosts, but highly recommend both. The next one that is sort of similar, I guess, a similar genre is Maintenance Phase, and this one was recommended by the YouTuber T Noir, and I really like this podcast. It's relatively new. There's not a ton of episodes out, so I have actually almost listened to all of them, which is really sad. But this is a show about diet culture and wellness and all of that kind of stuff. I find it extremely entertaining. They are very funny. One of the hosts is the same host for the show You Were Wrong About. If you've ever listened to that or heard of that, I think that one's pretty popular as well. I highly recommend this one. It is very good. The next two are kind of in the sustainability, ethics, I guess, sector. The first one is the Green Dreamer podcast. I also follow the podcast and the creator on Instagram, and I highly recommend. She's a very thoughtful and articulate person, and she has really, really interesting, enjoyable guests. I have definitely learned a lot from this one. The other one is the podcast Species Unite, and this one is about animal welfare, and I really like it. That's pretty much all there is to it. And then finally, if you are here for the books, then I highly recommend Marlon and Jake Read Dead People. This is hosted by Marlon James, the well-known author of A Brief History of Seven Killings. Is that the title? I read it. It was great. And his editor, Jake somebody, and they talk about dead authors, basically so that they can talk shit and not worry about it. It is hilarious, and it has added to my reading list greatly, but they just returned for another season, so definitely check that out. So movies, I haven't really been watching a lot of movies lately, but one film that I was reminded of recently that I went to see in the theaters when it came out was Dark Waters. And so I tried to rewatch it, and it's actually not on any streaming platforms that I have, which I, through family and friends, have a lot of streaming platforms available. So I don't think that this is on really any of them. So I got the DVD from the library, which felt like such a 2010 thing to do. I don't know. Anyway, and I rewatched this movie. And then there's kind of an accompanying documentary that I would recommend alongside this. So this is the story of a community in West Virginia around the city of Parkersburg, and there is a DuPont chemical company factory located there, and they started to have a lot of problems in the community, and they weren't sure what was happening, health issues. And it's kind of the story of discovering that DuPont had been knowingly polluting the water in the area, in a very large area actually. The movie Dark Waters is the story of the lawyer who finally worked with the community to try to get some justice, and this is obviously a semi-fictionalized account, but there's also a documentary which I recommend alongside this called The Devil We Know. That one I have watched on Netflix at some point. I'm not sure if it's still on Netflix. This is infuriating, but it's also something that I think is so important and that we should all know about and all be working against. Highly recommend those two. Definitely watch them. Prepare to get angry. Yeah. And then shows. So one show that I just recently tore through, Industry, and this is on HBO, and I forget the name of the YouTuber that recommended it, but I will have her video on the screen. Oh my gosh, I was fixated on this show. It's so strange because I do not care about finance at all. I've talked about this briefly in one video, I remember. I wrote in my Instagram review of this, everything I know about the market I learned from the movie The Big Short, but I don't care about finance at all. And I was watching this entire show about people working in a bank. The show is about I think it's a new grad scheme or something in a high finance bank in London. And it's a competitive program where they all get hired for 6 months, I think, and then at the end of 6 months the bank will fire half of them basically. And so they're all competing for a permanent job. And it is just wild. They depict kind of how much pressure this is, the kinds of ethical compromises people will make to stay in these positions. There is a lot of inappropriate content in this. There's lots of drugs, lots of sexual content, just so you know. But I thought that it was a really interesting show, and I don't know that I can really say that I learned anything, but at the same time, I was fascinated, and I think it's good to talk about these things more and not normalize really toxic, bizarre work cultures. On a much sweeter note, Sweet Tooth on Netflix. I loved this show. I think I watched it in 2 days. I really hope there's more seasons. It was precious. It's also sad. It's not just a feel-good show, but it was so cute. Visually, this is adorable. So in this show, a pandemic happens, which I don't like pandemic content, so I'm surprised that I liked the show, but I did. So anyway, a pandemic happens, and a huge amount of the population dies, but the people that are left, all of their children become these kind of human other animal hybrids. Basically, they're called hybrids, and they're really cute, and some of them seems like they're a little bit more like humans, some of them seems like they're a little bit more like whatever animal. But obviously, the way that our society is, chaos ensues, and everybody wants to kill these hybrids, and yeah, the story unfolds. Definitely something that brings you to terms with how you feel about humanity, the horrible, unethical decisions that people make throughout this story. You're just yeah, that is exactly how that would actually happen. Yep, but definitely recommend. I really enjoyed it. And then I think maybe the last show I have to talk about is Dirty John. This is a true crime remake thing. Like, the stories really happened, but it's fictionalized accounts of it. There's 2 seasons that are out. The first one is actually Dirty John. It's about the story of John somebody. He is a con artist who cons this lady, and she is really slow to figure this out, and it's very frustrating, but also very, very thrilling. And the second season is the story of Betty Broderick, who killed her husband, or her ex-husband, and his new wife. So I have talked to some people who really hate the second season because they think that it's too, like, easy on her, because, I mean, she is a cold-blooded murderer, and yeah, obviously that is not okay. But there's a lot of kind of commentary on how relationships used to, and to some extent still are, for some people, for women, like the gaslighting, the complete financial and sometimes emotional control. Just, I think that they did a good job of depicting the nuance. They certainly don't depict her as innocent, but I think it's a really good thing to discuss. So anyway, I like that show a lot. Let me see if I'm watching anything else. Oh my gosh, so I tried to watch Westworld. There's so much about this show that I really, really want to like. There's so much that I do like, actually. I really enjoy kind of sci-fi that's not space travel and, oh no, they've gone out to space and now they're stuck there. You know, like, I enjoy those too, but I really like kind of different creative sci-fi. Westworld is really slow. Like, why is it so slow? Yeah, so I watched the first season and I think that's gonna be it for me, really. Oh, the Twilight Zone. So I have watched most of the Twilight Zone reboot. So when I watched Black Mirror, I thought that Black Mirror was kind of like hitting you over the head with the point of their episodes, but I was wrong, because the Twilight Zone actually is. Like, it's definitely very much, most of the episodes, like, have a point, and it is, like, obvious what the point is. But I don't necessarily dislike that. If you thought Black Mirror was too preachy, definitely won't like it. But, yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I've started the Gossip Girl reboot. They've only put out 2 episodes, but I've watched both of them. I don't think I like it, but I'm definitely gonna keep watching it. First of all, I hate the teacher angle. I hate it. I can't stand the fact that it's the teachers. And I just feel like the characters, I like that it seems like they're trying to make them more well-rounded as characters. Like, they're not just, like, pure evil. But I just feel like it's kind of boring. But, like, I'm still watching, so I guess it's not that bad. So, I think that is everything that I have. I could keep talking about media and such forever, but realistically, I've already been recording for half an hour, so let me know what you have been listening to or watching lately, and I will see you very soon, probably for my July book wrap-up. So, thank you for watching, and